Hello, so I've been asked, should citizens' assemblies have a greater role in parliamentary debate and decisions? And I think this is a really fascinating and interesting question because it's really getting us to think about how far we have what we call participatory democracy. So how far we allow citizens who are not MPs to take part in political decisions and political debates. So a citizens' assembly, I think, is a very specific thing. So we're thinking about a situation where we will gather together a representation of different individuals from different parts of the country, from different walks of life, different age, different gender, different ethnicity, different sexual orientation, to try and get a good overview, and also perhaps even different religions. So we get different overviews of everyone from society, and we'll randomly select them or allow people to volunteer, and then these groups will be asked to debate particular issues and particular questions, perhaps talking to experts beforehand and hearing evidence. Now, I think these could play a really important role in two particular ways. So first, if we were thinking about modifying our constitution and moving from a system of having an uncodified constitution towards having a codified constitution, then I think it would be really important for citizens' assemblies to be involved in that process, thinking about the kind of constitutional principles we might want to have in society and thinking about how we want to implement them in particular ways. And I think that would be a really useful way of trying to understand what kind of values we want our society to promote and how we go about doing that. The second issue, I think, is we've seen a lot of referendums recently. So we often argue that we're not supposed to mention Brexit, given it played such a big role and we're now moving on. But it's hard to deny that it did play a big role because we took that decision through a referendum. And I think there could be a really important role for citizens' assemblies when we couple them with referendums. So if we think an issue is so important that we need to have a referendum on this, then we're basically saying it's so important we want the people to have a say in deciding. And I think there could be a really good use of citizens' assemblies to debate the issues about a particular referendum point, and also if a referendum is going to lead to a particular outcome, to think about the ins and outs of how we want to implement that outcome. So again, I think citizens' assemblies could play a really important role there. But that's not to mean that I don't think citizens shouldn't play a role in other areas of our constitution. So particularly we can think of things like pre-legislative scrutiny. So if we have a particular piece of legislation that is important, that's going to have large ramifications, or when we know a particular piece of legislation is going to affect a particular group in society, I think it could be a really good idea to ensure there is effective pre-legislative scrutiny where the government talks to key stakeholders about these particular issues. And this is something that the government does do, often through talking to particular public interest groups who represent particular parts of society. And so I think there's a really good way there of trying to get citizens' views through. Another area is what we call raising political salience. So when we try and make sure that an issue that is really important to a particular group in society gets picked up by the political elite and is able to be debated and discussed and perhaps even start to prompt the initiation of legislation. And we can see that in the UK through the use of things like e-petitions, which can then prompt a debate in Westminster. So I think these are all very important ways in which citizens could get involved and make sure that they're able to raise concerns and issues before Parliament. But I think the specific element of citizens' assemblies is probably better used in these areas, either when we're thinking of making major constitutional changes or when we're dealing with issues either running up to a referendum or about how we might want to implement a referendum, both to inform the public of those issues, but also to ensure the public can inform members of government of their viewpoints on these matters.